Welcome back to the channel for another scenic drive. This time we're heading out of the historic city of York. We're starting on Gillygate, at the northern corner of the city walls. The street on our left is Lord Mayor's Walk, where you can drive clockwise around the city centre. But we're heading straight on, into Gillygate, a street of mostly 17th and 18th century buildings. Being outside of the city walls built by the Romans, the architecture here is a later build to some of the buildings you would find within the inner city. Now, Gillygate is always busy with traffic, as just ahead is the junction at Bootham Bar. And here's one of York's open-top bus tours, heading off around the city. Now as we progress forward, you'll see an arch of the city walls ahead of us before we turn right northwards onto Bootham. The walls themselves were demolished a long time ago for the road so that it could head onwards towards Lendal Bridge, something that would not even be contemplated today. Behind us now, but sadly not in camera, is Bootham Bar, one of the original gates into the historic city, whilst on the left is the Museum Gardens with some of the best preserved sections of wall, although you cannot walk the walls in this section. The first of York's city walls were built way back in 71 AD, when the Romans built a fort on the banks of the River Ouse. Over the next 300 years, the walls were added to create one of the world's best city fortifications. You can see a complete circuit of the York city walls in my Scenic Walk video. Now the street of Bootham itself follows the line of Deer Street, an original Roman road from York, or Acomb as the Romans called it, running northwest to Catterick, or, ready for this, Cataractonium. The first buildings along here were built around the 12th century, and by 1610 the area was well built up. But bad times were ahead, as Bootham was devastated in the Siege of York in 1644. This was during the First English Civil War, when the Royalists, led by the Earl of Newcastle, were besieged in the city by the Parliamentarians, led by the Earl of Manchester. By July of 1644, the Royalists were in an impossible situation. The Earl of Newcastle fled to Scarborough and took a ship to the continent, and those that remained at York had to surrender. We're now in the Clifton district of York, and ahead is a triangular park known as Clifton Green. Clifton is a large district that stretches from here out to the City Ring Road and incorporates the City Hospital and various retail parks. At the end of Clifton Green, we turn onto Water Lane, and we're now heading towards our crossing of the River Ouse on the Clifton Bridge. This is a recent addition to the city bridges, being constructed in 1963. There was originally a ferry crossing over the river at this point, and a permanent bridge had been proposed back in 1913. However, in 1961, there was a royal wedding at the York Minster, when the Duke of Kent married Catherine Worsley. A temporary army bridge was built here to ease traffic for the wedding. The temporary bridge was a success, and it showed the need for something more permanent to link the growing districts of Clifton and Acomb. Opened in 1963, the permanent bridge comprises some 50 tons of reinforced steel and 4,000 tons of concrete. As we enter the district of Acomb, another bridge takes us over the East Coast Main Railway line. The railway came to York around 1840 and today forms one of two principal routes between London and Scotland. Below the bridge, the railway straightens out after leaving York Station and begins a straight line section of track that runs for around 30 miles to Northallerton. We're going to turn right here and join the A59 for a short stretch. The A59 continues onwards towards Harrogate, and we could follow this road out to join the city's outer ring road. However, just ahead we're going to turn left onto Carr Lane and head towards the centre of Acomb village. Now, Acomb was originally a farming village, but it grew in the 1800s to provide housing for York's growing industries, particularly the railway. Like most villages, it has a mention in the Domesday Book of 1066, but choices of how to spell Acomb varied over the following centuries. Let's try some of these. There was Acu, Acun, Acam, and even Acorn, amongst others, being used, until the advent of the printing press led to a standardising on the spelling of Acomb as Acomb that we have today. It's also believed that the Roman Emperor Septimus Severus, who died in York in 211 AD, was cremated in a military funeral here in Acomb. And today, it's a prosperous district of York with nice housing. At last we reach the centre of Acomb village, and here is the main shopping area, predominantly just down on the left there where Front Street has been mostly pedestrianised. However, we'll need to be on Front Street to head out of the city, but it's okay, as just ahead we're going to take a left and then right to join the remainder of Front Street after the shops. And as we leave Acomb, we pass two of the churches here. St Stephen's, just before the pub on the left, was built in 1832, but records show that a church stood on the site since at least 1662. And next, after the white walls and archway of Chancery Court, there's the Acomb Methodist Chapel, built more recently in 1964. Out of sight to the left here is Bachelor Hill, a small park with great views across the city. As we head out towards the city's outer ring road at Acomb Moor, it's worth remembering that this area was once used for horse racing in York, before the current racecourse was built at the Knavesmire. To commemorate this, the Acomb Stakes race is run at York Racecourse every August. And so we reach York's outer ring road, which is the A1237. We're going to turn left here and follow the 1237 for the last short section back to the A64. In the opposite direction, it heads towards Clifton and those retail parks that we mentioned earlier, which can make it a very busy ring road. Indeed, sometimes when you're further around the ring road, it's actually quicker to go east and all the way around the bottom of York than it is to actually come the shorter distance along here. No problems today though. It's a fairly quiet day for us and we'll have no problems reaching the A64 a mile or so ahead. And so finally we join the A64 on the southwest edge of York here at Acomb. Now the A64 of course is a major route between Leeds and Scarborough on the Yorkshire coast. We're going to make a little turn here down the slip road and join the A64 back towards Leeds. Now, hope you've enjoyed this scenic drive out of York. Please consider subscribing to the channel to see more films like this one as they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more adventures.